So what is the process? How does this work? Well, first of all, we'll work with the tech transfer offices, helping them identify and corroborate the commercial opportunities for given technologies. And I should pause there to say that it is those tech transfer offices that, in effect, are our primary customer for the program, for reasons that will be clear later. You can serve many masters with a program like this, and making a choice of if you saw City Slickers and Curly and the one thing, whatever the one thing is, choose one. For this, the tech transfer office has to be the driver, has to be the customer in order to make this work, and I suspect that'll be obvious why shortly. Anyway, we'll work with those tech transfer folks. They will bring inventions to us. We're not walking the halls and we're not whispering sweet nothings into inventors' ears, promising them glory and money and everything else. No, the university comes to us with something that they want to support, and are willing to basically earmark the technology build a company around this and earmark the technology for licensing to that company as the opportunity bears out.
Rob,
yes.
Private and public universities?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So not only are we relatively agnostic as far as the area of biotechnology, that it's not all drug development, it's not all ag, it's not all industrial, it's not all marine, et cetera. We also play pretty much even-handed amongst the private and the public universities, so the 16 UNC system schools as well as Duke and Wake Forest. And actually you'll see the breakdown of companies of origin for participants in the BATON program later in the presentation. But great question. We'll also work with our library to take a look at what the market might be, what the competitive landscape might be for a given technology. We have a tremendous library. Here's my little plug for the library. We have a tremendous library, your taxpayer dollars at work, that has access to quite a few market research, competitive intelligence, patent databases, these sorts of things that help us corroborate the commercial opportunity. And I should say for us, we're not an investor like an angel or venture or some other equity investor. Folks that live on the return on investment side, that's what ROI means to them. ROI for us is return of investment, so we can get it back and channel it to somebody else. And so I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but with some sincerity, because we don't necessarily need home run billion-dollar commercial opportunities to make it worth our while to support. Again, we're all about economic development. If there's job growth potential around an opportunity, whether it's likely to be a smaller market opportunity or huge, either's fine. We play even-handed. Later, of course, that makes a huge difference. And we'll help triage those opportunities, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But anyway, we have some resources that we can bring to bear to help think through commercially inviting technologies. You have to understand, and maybe most of you have lived this sort of thing because it's probably true for any inventor. Huge emotional attachment to the invention, right? I mean, the scientist, the engineer, whatever, they're going to love that invention as much or more than their own children. It's going to save the world. It's going to save the world in 10 different ways. We're going to do all of them simultaneously, and I'm going to be king or queen of it all, right? So you can imagine that I spend a lot of time in expectation management for that reason, and deflating a lot of balloons. Right. I mention that because a lot of what we hope to bring in by bringing in the professional community around each of these startups is some real-world perspective, real-world data that helps whittle that list of 10 opportunities down to 1 or 2 that are truly achievable. And whatever happens with the others, whether they're licensed to another entity or this startup pursues them later down the line, that's fine. But triaging and focus are huge challenges with any of these opportunities. And so we start that process a bit right here at a kind of a next level of depth that, beyond maybe what the university had done to that point. Secondly, we're going to work with folks folks largely on the general business services side to help incorporate this company and to give it some, a structure that's befitting a company that's probably going to be living on federal research grants for a while until it's a target for institutional equity investment, meaning draw from the corporate legal community that knows how to start entrepreneurial companies, can provide templates for confidentiality agreements and all these other things that are not really the reality that, let's say, a corner 7-Eleven grocery store has to face or an auto repair shop has to face. Not better, not worse, but definitely different. Put in an accounting system that anticipates living on federal grants, because that's a different beast. That doesn't come from your neighborhood CPA, not typically. Put in a structure that's transparent as far as future investors go. Again, that's peculiar to more entrepreneurial sort of communities. So we draw from that part of the professional services community to support the general business structure of these things. Next we'll reach out to providers of services that are more industry specific, more, I hesitate to say strategic, but industry specific. And this might be folks that work in FDA or environmental regulatory. It might be folks that have developed products in a particular sector before, patent lawyers, so on and so forth down the list. We'll go through who some of those folks are and what that demographic looks like a bit later. But draw those folks in and have them helping us determine early on whether we're even pointing the missile in the right direction or not. Again, the multiple opportunities and the information you get from the likely regulatory path, from the strength of the intellectual property, so on and so forth, we'll whittle that list of 10 opportunities down very quickly. But we want real data, real world data, not an academic or a hypothetical exercise. While the BATON program is a service, it's really not one of our funding programs. We will often make available, competitively, but we'll make available access to our different loans programs to these companies. And in the early offing, we have given our budget, we've had to cut it in half, but it's a $30,000 company inception loan that kind of helps grease the skids with some of these contributed services from the professional community to cover some of the fixed cost things and leverage those in-kind services and kind of get some momentum going on these things. Not everything can be donated in-kind sort of services. We'll talk about how that lays out a little bit later on. But we can put up some money. Again, these are in the form of very low interest, unsecured loans that are intended to support some of these inception stage business activities. And then lastly, while everything I've mentioned to this point requires someone to kind of synchronize a lot of diverse efforts and specialties and services, not unlike an orchestral conductor, and so BATON in the conductor sense, there's also BATON in the relay race sense. Okay, we are trying to tee these opportunities up to then recruit in an entrepreneur as that first CEO, COO, whatever you want to call him, but that builder, someone who knows how to build these things. Maybe it's the same person that goes and attracts money to it a little bit further down the road. But right now, we want to bring in somebody to kind of take the lead and shape this up and see where the compelling underlying story is for any one of these things. And we'll talk a bit about how that works as well.